I was still feeling the effects of whatever Dr. Matthews had used to drug me. My arms felt heavy and I was clumsy. The struggle for control of the revolver was fierce, but it was a battle I couldn't afford to lose. My determination to escape becoming a subject of the scientist's experiments was unwavering. Eventually, I overpowered Dr. Matthews and wrestled the gun from his grasp. I immediately cocked the gun and pointed it at him, and he froze. My desire to pull the trigger, to end the threat the scientist posed, surged within me. But in that critical moment, I hesitated. The world had turned cruel and unpredictable, but I couldn't abandon my own humanity. Instead, I used the butt of the revolver to knock him out. With Dr. Matthews unconscious, I took swift action. I secured him with the ropes, ensuring he wouldn't be able to escape. When he finally regained consciousness, his eyes held a mix of confusion and fear. I stood before him, my voice steady but demanding. "I want answers," I said, my gaze unwavering. "Why did you plan to draw my blood, and what are you really researching?" The scientist remained defiant, refusing to divulge his motives. "I'm trying to save humanity," he replied, his voice calm. "I'm looking for a way to reverse the effects of the bacteria, to find a cure." I couldn't dismiss the possibility that Dr. Matthews might be telling the truth. The chaos that had consumed the world was a direct result of the virus, and a cure would be a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape. But his answer made me pause. He called it a bacteria, not a virus. I was no scientist, but I knew there was a difference between a bacterial infection and a viral infection. I reached for one of the vials that had fallen to the floor during the commotion. I held it up, the odd-looking liquid inside shimmering in the dim light. "I want the truth," I told him, my voice firm. "I'll inject you with this unless you start talking. Tell me about your research, your experiments." Dr. Matthews hesitated, fear flickering in his eyes. He realized the perilous situation he was in and the potential consequences of my actions. "All right, fine," he began. "I created the virus," he confessed, but his voice was filled with little remorse. "I'm the reason people are sick, and I've been contaminating the local water sources, rivers, lakes, all of it." My mind reeled with the implications of his words. Dr. Matthews had created the very virus that had brought the world to its knees. The chaos, the suffering, and the loss of life were all a result of his actions. "Why?" I asked, struggling to comprehend the enormity of his confession. "Why would you create such a virus?" The scientist's gaze sharpened, his anger still apparent. Years of my research were discredited as my findings on the importance of population control were repeatedly discounted by my peers. Eventually, my funding was discontinued. When I tried everything I could to continue my work, my peers laughed in my face, calling me nothing more than a crazy hack. I created this virus to help the world become less problematic. I wanted to show everyone how wrong they were to discredit me. It was clear Dr. Matthews' life's work had gotten the best of him. "And the experiments on subjects like me?" I asked, my voice filled with disbelief. He looked up at me defiantly. "I needed new samples to redevelop the serum," he replied. "My plan was to use your uncontaminated blood to redirect the bacterial sequence to those who have somehow been able to avoid becoming sick thus far." Sudden rage swirled within me. "You crazy bastard," I replied through gritted teeth. I gripped the revolver at my side, wishing I could rid the world of this poor excuse for a human being. But I knew that the scientist needed to be held accountable for his deeds, and at the same time, his knowledge was a potential key to stopping the chaos. With the tainted vial still in my other hand, I leaned closer to him. "You'll help me find a way out of this mess," I demanded. "You'll use your research to save lives, not subject them to certain death." Dr. Matthews wasn't convinced, so I hastily grabbed a syringe as if to fill it with the serum. Thankfully, my bluff worked. Okay," Dr. Matthews shouted, his fear and desperation evident as he stared at the vial in my hand. "I'll do whatever it takes to make amends," he promised. "I have data and research that can neutralize the virus to reverse its effects. I'm willing to create it, just don't inject me with that." I still couldn't deny that his knowledge was invaluable, a potential lifeline in a world that had been brought to the brink of destruction. But his actions had also caused immeasurable suffering and loss. I knew I couldn't trust him. But unfortunately, right then, I had no other choice. "We'll work together," I decided, my voice resolute. "Like it or not, you'll have to make amends for what you've done." With that, I holstered my gun, untied him, and allowed him to stand. The path ahead was filled with uncertainty. The world had been forever changed by the chaos unleashed by this mad man, and now he was the only one who held the key to our survival.